So greetings to one and all. This is Vaibhav Agrawal, and today we have Col RS Bhadauria sir with us, and he would be narrating the 10 SF Heliborne operations at the Jaffna University. He was the first person to land at the Jaffna University and carry on the operations thereafter. So it's an honor for us having you here with us, sir. And if you could tell our dear viewers, how did the operations were carried by you, and what was the your overall analysis about Operation Op Pawan and the IPKF operations at the Jaffna University?
Thank you, Vaibhav. It's been a lot of water thrown under the bridge. 35 years have gone by.
Right, sir.
And sometimes one feels that there may be some gaps on dates or something, but no, the images are so fresh, as though all that incident took place just yesterday. And maybe because you go through it and you lose a lot of your comrades, their faces come up to you at times.
Right.
You think about it and then you put it aside. It was an operation, and I think I was lucky to be part of it, being a paratrooper, to take live part in a Heliborne operation, which a lot of us have served for many years and finally retire even without firing a bullet at the enemy. So I've been lucky that way, both in Sri Lanka and in the Kashmir Valley.
Okay.
Once the orders are given to you for a Heliborne assault, generally the resources available with us were far and few. The first, as I look back at it, that is, I would say the mistakes that could be, now you can say, were committed.
Right.
Were that by day too many recce sorties had gone over that landing zone. Now, when too many recce sorties by every commander goes in there, it always pricks up the enemy's ears as to why are so many helicopters flying over this area.
Correct.
And that was the only available place where a landing could take place.
Okay.
Or a Heliborne operation could take place. So this probably had given away the first clue to the LTT. The second being, whenever you launch an airborne or a Heliborne operation, you have a dedicated fighter cover with you, either in terms of attack heptals or in terms of air-to-ground support, that is fighter aircraft,
okay,
which oversee any eventuality that comes up to suppress that, so that the Heliborne operation goes in smoothly. Now, in this case, maybe the army didn't have that much of information on the LTT as the LTT had on the arm. One of the biggest mistakes I suppose the army did was to name it as a peacekeeping force. Name conveys everything. Now the man who's coming from Chennai, or who's coming airborne from, say, Delhi to Sri Lanka, he thinks the family, they're going on a peacekeeping mission. So they will come back. So with the peacekeeping means, you will have enough time to patronize there with the locals. You will have time to shop around. You will have time to visit the beaches. It is not so. Well, all of us thought so. But in the special forces, we were actually earmarked for the operation. So we knew that it is not going to be such a cakewalk.
Right.
And that was it. we got the orders on the, I think it was on the, so I'm correct, it was on the 10th, 11th night, 10th, 11th night, I think, or 11th, 12th, somewhere that time. And time to take off was at 0100 hours. The aircrafts were limited. The troops were more. But the advantage was the flying time from the main Palali Air Base to the Jaffna University ground was only about 2.5 to 3 minutes. As the crow flies. So the pilots, what they did is to take in more. We did not have Mi-17 there. There were Mi-8 aircrafts. Now Mi-8 has got a limited capacity to hold as a Mi-17. Mi-17 can carry more weight. And they are generally deployed all over in the northeast and in Siachen sector. So these Mi-8 helicopters, they were for ex-Sulur Air Base. Now, when these aircrafts, we had 2 of them. So they were to do a ferry service. Now, in any airborne operation, the aircraft goes, he goes once over the landing zone or the dropping zone and moves away. He does not do ferry service. The moment you do ferry service, he's waiting for you. It's like you go and pick somebody's pocket, you only do it once. But if you go in again, he will catch hold of you there. But here, as I told you, when we took off at 0100 hour, it was half moon, and pilots didn't have any, what you call, difficulty navigating as such. I was in the first chopper. The whole plan was to do slithering. That is, you throw down a rope and you come down by the rope quickly.
Right.
And mostly what happens is in these aircrafts at night, the ability to hover at one place is limited. What happens? It starts creeping up or creeping forward up. So when it starts creeping up, like say if your dropping height was 10 meters, I will come down at 10 meters, but probably the last chap, when he's coming down, he would have creeped up to 15 to 20 meters. So that means the last chap will have a free fall of another 5 meters at night, and right, the fracture is foot. So what we do is, if it is 10 meters, we take a rope of 20 meters. Okay. For this issue. So the rope was a long rope. The moment we came there and the buzzer went, there are 2 lights, there are 3 lights rather, same as on the traffic point, green, yellow and red. Red light, everybody gets up, hooks on. Yellow light, ready position. The green light is go. You jump out, you throw the rope in. So the moment he saw yellow, green, I threw the rope down and I jumped with it. I came down, the next chap came with me and I held the rope. Just then I saw the helicopter landing on the ground. Now when the helicopter lands on the ground, what happens is there's a lot of downdraft created because of the rotors. So with the downdraft, the extra rope which was there lying, it got entangled on my foot. And I was in a panic. I said, this is going to be terrible. And I could see the moment the helicopter landed, chaps started coming out. They started running out. We were about 35 or about 30 of us in that aircraft. Yeah. And as I could see the last man coming out, I was just in 2 minds. I was between the devil and the deep. What should I do? Should I go back into the aircraft and come back with the next wave? Or should I go hanging under it? Hanging with 2.5 minutes, I said with 25 kgs back on my back, I'll be able to hold it. But still, with the wind effect of as the chopper flies, it may be difficult. But as luck would have it, they say, when luck favors you, luck is on your side. Nothing happens to you. By the time the last man was coming out, I got myself out of the entanglement and looked up to Grace. I said, oh, well, today nothing is going to happen to me, I'm sure. So that gave me a lot of, inner courage. Don't worry, nothing is going to hit you. So that first step was a very important luck, I would say. The lady luck smiled. And that was it. And the moment I landed, the firing had started from the university building.
Okay.
From the third. And as the fire was coming in, it was not hitting us because it was a plunging fire. Plunging fire is when you hit anything from top to down, it just goes in the direction the bullet goes into the ground. It doesn't graze along the longer axis. Like if you fire, say anything along the surface, it will carry like what the militants had done. If you see in the Golden Temple,
Right.
They had sighted their machine guns at a ground level. So most of the soldiers that entered Golden Temple were all shot in the leg initially. You don't have to have accurate aim. You know that this is the gap in which they are going to come. And if you fire automatic bursts, you will get. Here they were firing from top. So all the fire was going and plunging. That did not affect us. We were very conservative on firing because we had a long way to. And we also knew that our supplies are there. All that the supplies we have is on our back. There are no supplies coming up for us.
Right.
And the third wave that came in, one of the choppers got hit. His one engine was off. And luckily, the pilots, they were, I think, that time it was Wing Commander Diveskar, who subsequently got a Veer Chakra. And I'm forgetting the other names. They were there and he flew back on one engine. He flew the aircraft back on one engine, but then subsequent sorties did not fetch up.
Okay.
Now, when this happened, the last sortie that they had come, they had gotten our 99 boys, that is 3 or 4 officers and 96 other ranks had all come in. But the Sikh line, only the platoon commander, Major Virender Singh, who was from the royal family of Bharatpur.
Okay.
That time related to, if you recollect, there used to be one foreign minister in Congress, Mr. Natwar Singh.
Yeah.
He was a relative of his. Very fine man, Major Virender Singh. He had brought in his MMG section, medium machine gun section, and 81mm mortar. Now with the medium machine gun section, he had brought in the full ammunition. But with the 81mm mortar, he bought the mortars without the ammunition. They said they will come in the next sortie. But since this aircraft got hit, the sorties got cancelled. So now here there was a situation like you have a pen without ink. So you can't do anything about it.
Correct.
And the maximum casualties which are caused are by indirect weapon systems, like your artillery, your mortars. It is the statistics that shows, I was reading across, the statistics of Second World War is only 13% casualties were caused by small arms. Rest of them were all by blasts or grenades or indirect firing weapons. So the most lethal weapon that they had was the 81mm, but that didn't have ammunition. And by about 3:30, the decision had to be taken because daylight would break out again within an hour or so. First light would break in by about 4:35. We had to move out. We were out in the open on a football ground, dominated by buildings all sides. So we asked Major Virinder, we have to go for a subsequent task, which was to raid the LTT political headquarters. And subsequently link up in the morning at the Jaffna bus stand with the 72 Infantry Brigade. It so happened, we asked Major Virinder to come along with us. He spoke to his CO, now late Captain Colonel Sethi, who said, Virinder, I am only 4 kilometers away from you, and I should be able to link up with you by early morning, not a problem. So Virinder decided to wait for him there at the helipad. The cardinal mistake, probably what he did was that he should have moved in a built-up area, which was right behind him, 500 meters behind, rather than sitting into the helipad, digging himself. They, in fact, I had gone there about 6 weeks later with the same helipad with the commander, Brigadier Manjeet Singh Mahavir Chakra of 41 Brigade, and saw the remnants there. In fact, I went there earlier. Then I went and told him that it was in his area. So he said, you take me there along. So when he went there, he saw the boots and clothes of those Sikhalai boys who had fought there were still lying there. Okay. Some of their equipment was still lying there, which we picked up and gave it to the battalion. But those boys fought bravely to the last man, last round. Because next day, around at about 11:30, they had been surrounded and then they had eliminated them. Only one of them, Rifleman Gora Singh, he was captured alive, who was subsequently handed over to the Indian Army back for exchange of prisoners which Indian Army had captured on sea when Kittu was captured. One of the LTT leaders, Kittu, with his cronies were captured. So when he was exchanged, Gora Singh was exchanged back, given back to the Indian Army. This is what it is. And while we moved out of the helipad, we came across a railway line. We crossed the railway line and we halted. We could see some movement of the LTT far with the night vision. And there was a communication tower. My team commander, Major Nair, Rajiv Nair, I was a captain then. So Major Nair asked me, Kisi, look at that, you go, take some explosive and just destroy this communication tower, because that will disrupt the entire communication of the LTT. So I went with another one, Commando Shire Singh. I told him to cover my move. While I was placing the charge, the wind was so strong, the wick wouldn't light. So luck would have it, covered it with the rain cap, and we lit that wick. We moved back, and after about 1.5 minutes, there were 2 blasts. The communication tower fell. We moved ahead from there, and it was like groping in the dark. It was a built-up area. We had again moved into a polished colony. As daylight was breaking, Major Nair knew a bit of Tamil, though being a Malayali, but he knew a bit of Tamil.
Okay.
He entered a house and he caught over the old man. There was nobody there. So he says, open the door. So he opened his house door and opened the room. He found there was a girl and a boy. He said, who's this? This is my son and my daughter-in-law. I've locked them because the LTT takes them away for fighting. All LTT was actually recruiting all the young boys and girls for the war. And a lot of people were not in favor of it. As it is that not 100% people will be in favor of it. So we said they are married and I have put them in law. He said, okay, now you tell us, can you give us some more information? He said there is what you call a camp close by, which is about 500 meters away from here. And there are about it's a training camp that should be about 500 in. But that may be exaggeration, but certainly about 150 to 200 would have been there.
Okay.
Because of what we saw subsequently there. And at the helipad ground, we were conserving our ammunition, but 13 Sikhs who had brought in their medium machine guns, they had opened up vigorously. And with the opening of that medium machine gun, the LTT fire from the building had also a little subsided. And while we were at this, we asked for air support. We didn't have our own, we had that point in time 2 Mi-25 attack helicopters at the Palali airfield, but for some good reason, they had not been cleared to operate for this operation. They had not been cleared. Whatever the situation was, political or military. However, the Sri Lankan Bell helicopter, which had mounted 50 point caliber 50 medium heavy machine gun, came in to support us. That was around after about landing on the helipad for about 45 minutes.
Okay.
We were on the helipad for good about hour and a half, 2 hours. I think hour and a half. About 1 we landed, 2:30, 3, round about 3 we left the place. 3:30. Till then, there was exchange of fire going on between us and the LTT. Only thing is we were a little conservative in our expenditure. Now, then the daylight had broken out. So this old gentleman in that area, which was known as the village of Cocoville, this is a very posh area there. He started guiding us. As we were going in front, time would have been around about 700 hours, 700 hours, 7 a.m. There was automatic burst and a couple of our chaps got hit.
Okay.
Now, when this fire comes, you don't see anybody like you see in movies, you can see somebody firing at here you only see the sound or the smoke coming in. You don't see the man because he's well concealed. He doesn't expose himself.
Right.
And you only get to know if you are not hit. If you are hit, you don't get to know who has hit you. You know the direction from which the sound is coming. So you take cover. It so happened that one of my NCOs, Bhavarlal, he got hit on the back and he was very close to me, around about just 10 steps ahead of me. And the fire came from a small hutment on my right. So my rocket launcher chap was with me. I told him immediately, just fire and chap on this. He loaded in high explosive ammunition and fired one. There were cries of men, women inside. I don't know who, whether we didn't go to see who has died, who has not died, but the fire stopped from there.
No.
We collected our people and started moving ahead. This was a big lake. I think it was known as Rambadi Lake in Cocoville. Well-lined houses on both sides. When we had hardly gone another about 100 meters, there was fire. Now the fire came from the house which was on the left. So me and the second in command of the unit, Major Shunan, we rushed into that. Doctor and Major Nair rushed on the house on the right side. And in that firefight, all the people that were there in the house, I would say they were all killed. Men were there, women were there, a few children also were there. They were all killed. And then we took our casualties. By then we had about four fatal casualties, and 5 or 6 of them were wounded. So we knew we cannot move ahead with this. We told the doctor to establish a regimental aid post, and the headquarters were there. After having cleared this house, I had about 9 of us with me. I kept moving ahead without realizing that the team commander, because the fire was coming from the enemy side also, and it was broad daylight. I had moved another about 2 to 3 houses ahead. Just then Major Nayak called me. He says, hold on, you don't go, there will be too much of gap between the regiment, our headquarters, and where we are establishing, and we are moving ahead. So with the result, they will be able to cut us. They will come in between. They will be able to cut you and me, both of us, away, which will be very difficult again. It is here that I stopped, and the house that I had stopped there, it had a very good view on the right and left. It was an old house, probably used by the military at some point in time. There was a small lane in front. On the left side was the built-up area. On the right side, entire 3/4 area was open. And there was a little scrub. On the scrub side, you could see people going around in lungis. We had not realized that they were all carrying their weapons below in the lungi. So we didn't fire at them.
Okay.
We didn't fire at them. We just didn't fire at them. I said, don't fire at a person unless you see a weapon with him. There was one man who passed just in front of me. I was sitting there. I had told my medium machine gun to be deployed there to cover that longer range. And I asked him to stop. He didn't stop. I had a 9mm carbine. I shot him with it. I could see the blood coming out of his back, but he cycled off. Now this 9mm SAF machine gun is a Second World War weapon, which is very good at 5 to 10 yards. Beyond that, its stopping power is very limited. So I said, now let's give this away. And I said, keep it. After that, I never carried that weapon at all with me throughout my 2 years and 10 months. Because we had captured a lot of LTT weapons, AK-47. I had an AK with me. I also had an M16.
Okay.
When you compare both the weapons, M16 is a very accurate weapon.
Right.
And AK-47 is also accurate, but AK-47 gives you great volume of fire. M16 also gives you, but M16 accuracy-wise is far superior to AK-47. But the reservists in M16, there are more stoppages. It requires more maintenance. AK-47 doesn't require any maintenance at all. So here we were there, and there was certain lull. Time was around at about 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. morning. I got a message on the set from Major Nair. I'm sending you some tea. I said, whoa, wow, welcome here. Because by then they had made some, we had all carried extra ammunition with us, had carried no rations, so that we could carry more ammunition. And few tea packets were there with us. So he brought the tea, and a guy somehow from where he procured a cup and a saucer, and he gave me. I was sitting on the chair outside, and as I got up, there was a burst of fire on the chair.
Okay.
And so immediately I told our boys, I had deployed one medium machine gun which was out. So that gun and continued to, and there was, I told the staff to get into the house. We were on the veranda of the house. We got into the house, and a mortar shell came and landed near the machine gun.
Okay.
That machine gun got disbalanced. It got rather, I would say, not destroyed. It was a little out of action because one of the pins in the barrel, the mounting and the gun, both had shaken up. So took out the gun and we came inside. The mount was left behind. The three boys which were there with the machine gun, they had got wounded. In fact, two of them got wounded. The other third one got wounded while we were inside the house. So I told these, there were 3-4 windows in that house. I said, cover all the windows and keep firing. Now, the what you call SAF carbine which I had given away to my, I said, you leave this and leave that light machine gun with me. So I was handling the light machine gun because that chap had also been wounded with the light machine gun.
Right.
Now with 3 chaps wounded, I said these chaps have to go behind. So another 2 chaps I sent them back. So 3 plus 2, they were all walking wounded, not that anybody who was very badly off.
Okay.
So 5 chaps had gone by. We were only 4 of us left. Myself, my buddy, and 2 more. So I said, you keep firing from there. While I was handling this machine gun, I used to fire from one window, then go to the other one, go to the other one. I had myself zeroed all these weapons of my platoon, of my company. So I knew which weapon was firing, how it was firing. And this machine gun was firing absolutely accurate, and which I was holding on to. So intense was the firefight that point in time, from about 9, 10, about 9, 10, 9, 15 till around about 11, 11:30. We had nearly finished our entire ammunition. So I called back to Major Nair. I said, sir, we are on our limited sources of ammunition. Please send up some ammunition.
Right.
A party was sent, but it came under fire immediately. So they could not reach us at all. The distance was barely, say, about 20 and 20, 40, 50 meters only, because after every 20 meters there was a house, then there was a house, and all these houses had barbed wire around them, open barbed wire. So you have to cut through them or jump over them. And in broad daylight, the moment you come out of your hide anywhere, you are a living target. So you got to move very fast. Luckily, these 5 chaps who were there, I said, they will not be able to move with fire and cover. They said, sir, we can't move now. I said, hold on. They had moved to one house behind. I told them, I sent them a message. I said, you go, don't leave this house empty, go behind one more house, so that you are closer to the headquarters. So that you are closer to the headquarters, you can get help. I was there in that house when my own chap said, sir, we are on the last bit of ammunition. I said, don't worry. The belted ammunition of the medium machine gun and the LMG is the same. So I said, break the belt and keep loading the ammunition. Each belt has about 235 rounds of ammunition. So I said, that is enough, but you just do it fast. So he was quickly breaking it and filling it in the magazine and passing it on to. I remember that day he asked me to change the barrel. What happens is, once the barrel is very hot, after about 4 to 5 magazines having been fired, you change the barrel of the gun. Light machine gun has 2 barrels. You change the barrel. So has the medium machine gun, and all crew sub weapons which fire automatically have 2 barrels. I said, no, I will not change it. This is a very lucky barrel. Not a single stoppage has taken place in this machine gun. And you won't believe, at 10:30, 11 in the daylight, the barrel was looking red hot. It was burning red hot. We could see that so intense we had been firing with it. And there was a wave coming towards us. You know how they, you bend down and walk through the undercover. And I could see 2-3 backs. So I just took aim, and distance was about 70 meters, not more than that. And at 70 meters with the machine gun, you miss nothing. So I fired 2-3 bursts and that stopped. So I told these chaps to fall back straight away. We left one house, while we were coming across, I was the last chap to leave. My buddy was there with me. He was an Adivasi chap, Arvind Kumar by name, Adivasi from Bihar.
Okay.
He said, "Sab chalo, you move." I said, "No, you move first." He said, "No, I will move. Moment we came to the barbed wire, he was holding the barbed wire, and I was getting through it. I got entangled in that again. I got a cut. He says, I said, "You go." He said, "No, no, I will not go unless." He stood there till the time he covered me up, till the time I got out of it, my torn overall, and came out of it. He covered straight right behind me. He said, "Sir, I will cover you, you move." So I moved ahead. When we came to this house, we all reorganized ourselves. We sent our wounded back. And now the difference, the open area between this house and the house which we had occupied was again 20 meters, open field. They were still apprehensive that we are still in that house.
Okay.
So after having fired a lot of ammunition on it, they finally around about 11:30, 12, they assaulted that house. They found nobody. They had a battle cry. We could hear them. And there were few blood marks lying there. So they knew that some of our chaps are wounded or killed, whatever. But nobody was killed, they were wounded. So that next house that they came, they were still apprehensive that we may be there. But we were not there. When we were not there, they again came forward. Now they got that this house is also not occupied. So as they came in the open in this 20 meters, then I asked my chaps, I said, "Open up now." And that is where we killed them, at least about 9-10 of them we killed there. So after that, they didn't attempt at all. They did fire from far, but no, we didn't have any casualties. Our ammunition stock also, we had redistributed ourselves, was enough now. Throughout the day, they kept firing on us from all sides. Rest of the team was deployed all around. The mortars from the Jaffna University of the Sri Lankan mortars tried to give us fire support in the area where the LTT was supposed to be, but we don't know what effect it had created on them, because we could not see the fall of those of that mortar.
Right.
One helicopter from 54 did try to come and communicate us and drop us ammunition, but it got hit. So it went back. They fired on it, so it went back. And I think Deputy or General Harkidat himself, no, not General Harkidat, but some senior officer had come in that chopper. So he went back, and we were still there. We were having a lot of casualties. We had, by then, our casualties had been 15 were wounded and 6 had fatal casualties. 6 fatal. So we knew we had to carry them all back. Our bayonet strength, our fighting strength would be very little.
Right.
So we had to wait for the night. We waited for the night. The firing continued in between. They used to fire, we used to fire. Some of our chaps got hit while they were trying to look through the window. They got shot in the mouth. And yeah, it's just, it happens. In fighting in a built-up area, the moment you expose yourself, you are a dead duck. Because the target is he knows where you are. And he knows the exposed area. You can't see him because he's out on the other side. And it is his area in which you have entered. So he knows it like the back of his hand.
Correct.
And you don't know. So as the night fell, I radioed my team commander, asked him, "What is it? What needs to be done now? We have to break out. And the breakout is we have to carry our chaps and we should do right now."
Right.
Otherwise, by first light, it will be very difficult. By then, a commanding officer, Colonel Dalveer, who was there in Colombo at that point in time, he had flown back. He was with the High Commissioner. That point in time was Mr. J.N. Dixit. He flew back to Jaffna, and he took a company of 13 Sikhai, the same battalion of which Major Virender was there. And he says, I will take this company. And another team of our unit, which was there at the Jaffna airfield, was made to stand by, also followed with them. When this party started moving, he found there were tanks. 3 tanks were also there. He said, why don't you give me tanks? So he took the 3 tanks, a group of tanks of 65 armor. Then Major Col, who subsequently got a V Chakra,
Right.
Major Col, group commander of that. A late Major Col, he said, Sir, chalo. So 1 troop of Sikhai and 1 platoon of 1 troop of 65 armored and 1 platoon of 13 Sikhai. And my CO, Colonel Dalveer, with his small protection party, 1 troop, that is another 20 boys, they started moving. Now, in a T-72 tank, there is a very little space. There is a driver, there is a gunner, and there is a commander.
Right.
The cap cannot be fitted in it. There is just no space. But it's a very versatile tank. And they started moving. As they were moving, it was evening round about 6:37. Daylight was fading away. Colonel Dalveer was sitting on the top of that tank, and he was in the leading tank. The rest of the 2 tanks were behind. The last tank, there was a JCO there. They were following. It had rained very heavily that night.
Okay.
The ground was soggy. Now, tank requires hard ground to move. So it was getting stuck into the paddy fields. Just then he looked at the map, there was a railway line on the left. So Colonel Dalveer said they had moved, and then the moment they turned inside the built-up area, he says he saw a man coming. He took his RPG-7 rocket launcher and fired at the tank. Without realizing, now he did a mistake, that chap. He must have fired at 20 meters.
Okay.
Had he fired on the cupola, that is where the main turret and the body is, or he had fired on the chain, on the wheels, the tank would have been destroyed. But he fired rightly friendly, which is the hardest part of the tank.
Correct.
And it is conical in shape. So that rocket RPG-7 ricocheted and went up. And Major Col, who was standing on the tank with the cupola up, that is covering is still here, it hit him on his eye.
Oh.
Blast. Dalveer says, in his Dalveer's own word, Dalveer says, I was blinded myself. I didn't know what had happened. For a minute, I didn't know. Could not hear anything. He says, then I looked up and I see there was blood all over the face of Major Col. His one arm was bleeding, his eye had gone. And he says, immediately stop the tank, took out the field dressing, put a field dressing on him, and says, now we must turn back. They had hardly gone any distance, they turned back. They deposited Major Col at the that is regimental aid post of the division of the brigade, and they turned back. They said, now let's move forward. So the JCO says, our commander is no more. How can I move now? So Dalveer said, don't worry, I'm your commander now. He got into the tank, the same tank, and now you move behind me. So he started moving. The platoon, this company of Sikhai also started moving with them to provide cover. Earlier they were moving with just one platoon, which was all mounted on the tanks. Everybody was on the tanks. Now the troops were moving with the tank on the ground to eliminate any such militant coming back again and trying to fire a rocket launcher at them. It was pitch dark by then. The rains had started again, raining the whole night. It had been raining, and around at about 1:30, I get a call from my team commander to see to light up something so that he can see in that built-up area. See, in a built-up area, the passage for tank is very limited. He has to move on the tracks. What is available to him? Otherwise, in a normal war, he would have gone moving all over those houses, crushing them. But here, since we were in a different role, we had to move on a track. So he said, show me the place. I said, there is one hut, but since it's been raining, the top will be wet, but underneath it will be dry enough. So he said, I said, I can go and burn it. He said, yeah. He said, now ja karke usko aag laga do. I said, that is the only way, because all our very lights and things had finished. There was nothing with us available. So I went there, tried to light, it wouldn't light. Luckily, I had some plastic explosive with me. So the plastic explosive is something which you burn it, it catches fire. It needs a detonator to blast it, but if you light it, it burns. In fact, we have often used it to make tea in the jungles when there was nothing available, no wood was available to make tea. So this plastic explosive, I lit a plastic explosive and put it in the under of this hut. There were people inside, I could hear them. I didn't know whether there were children, women, men, but there were a couple of people inside that. We burned that hut at around 2:30, 3 o'clock at night. When that fire took place, he gave a message, yes, I can see where the light is, I'm coming. He was barely 500 meters away from us. So he came in, and when he came in, we mounted our casualties, and we decided, I said, let's go ahead now. The team commander also said, let's go ahead. But it so had happened that second time after Major Col had been hit, the 3 tanks that came along, they would fire one round on every building.
Okay.
So that is eliminating anybody who's waiting for you.
Just to ensure it, yeah.
Just making sure that by the time they came there, they had finished all their ammunition.
Okay.
The tanks had finished all their main gun ammunition. And ranging machine and automatic and that machine gun ammunition, which is on top. They only had about 15-20 rounds of ranging machine gun, 50. That ammunition was with them. And one of the tanks was only firing, was capable of firing. The rest of the tank, one has got stuck into the barrel. And in another one, the sighting system had gone faulty. So only one was in the working condition. So the decision had to be taken to go forward or to move back. The time was around about 3:30 it was. 3:34, 3:30 probably. First it was dark, fully dark because of the rain. Having loaded all the casualties on the tank, we decided to turn back. So we started walking and the casualties are loaded on top of the tanks. The troops, the fatal as well as the walking wounded. Walking wounded they were all put there and we started moving. At the moment we started moving, the LTT again became very aggressive. They started firing on us. But then we were replying their fire. And before first night, we had been able to come out of the built-up area. And by about 7:30, 8 o'clock, no, 8:39, we had linked up with 72 Brigade. And from subsequently, while we were going back from there, we got a message. We were falling back to Palali airfield that CO 45GR has been surrounded. He was having a conference there with his officers and men in a grove. They were fired on where he was Colonel Bawa. Colonel Bawa from GR Gurkha Rifles and his adjutant NJD Singh was a Manipuri. They were both killed there. And they were their bodies had to be retrieved and the LTT was not permitting this firing. So we moved back again with the troop. And when JCO was there with me, Ram Pratap, we covered the move. We went and we linked up with them. We got them out, got the bodies out. And it was by late in the evening, 6:30, we reached Palani back. So this was the whole this thing of the Heliborne operation. It is just that once you go through it, you get a confidence, you know that how it is to be, what were the mistakes we committed, what should have been and what should not have been.
Right, sir.
Any questions from your side? I would.
Anything else that you would like to add, sir? Anything else that you would like to add?
Acha, okay. I feel that the commander and the troops, any commander, field commander who's there, must continuously be in touch with his troops and keep telling them the situation, which is very important. Number one. Number two, your weapon and ammunition must always be kept dry. As they say, keep your gunpowder dry. Because if your weapons, there was so much of humidity and rain, and you can go without food for 3 days.
Right.
But you can't go without ammunition even for 1 hour. It's very difficult. And nextly, the communication. It is communication not only with your troops, it's your communication, your link with your rear, your communication with your headquarters, your communication with your men who have sent you for the operation here. That should be maintained. Once that is broken, then you feel that you are at a loss, not knowing what is to be done.
Right.
Which you have to take, and you have to take independent decision. You cannot ask for decision, what should I do? You are the man on the ground. You have to take what is best for you and your men.
Right, sir.
That is it.
Okay. And thank you very much for your time and the input that you have made, sir. It was really a pleasure knowing the 10 SF operations at the Jaffna University and the takeaways that you have given.